rather than a long drawn-out homily, the three of us are going to give a synopsis of our Franciscan journeys. What happened for us to be in these habits? Mine began long, long time ago. Picture this, the Bronx. Literally, I was working at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx, and I was a young attending, believe it or not, and I was assigned to the consultation and liaison team at the hospital to serve as the consultant to the AIDS team. Nobody wanted that job. Prior to that, when I was a resident in Syracuse, just out of residency, the same thing happened. I went to work with the single AIDS patient in the psychiatric hospital because nobody else would want it. God had a way of telling me to work with the marginalized and poor. When I worked at Lincoln Hospital, it was more or less the same thing. While I was there, I met a sister of Allegheny, a Franciscan sister of Allegheny. They're famous for having worn in their old habit a coffin on their heads. The coif was shaped like a coffin, and then the veil. Sister Pat Reed, terrific lady. They didn't wear the veil at that time. She went in civvies, and she was a chaplain there. And one day she said to me, "You know, Peter, there's something uniquely Franciscan about you." And I was taken aback. I had no clue what she meant. It's the way you deal with people, the way you treat your patients. And I said, well, I treat my patients that way anyway. It's not necessarily Franciscan. Rewind many decades before. I was 15, 16, living in the first house we owned in Miami. My bedroom faced the backyard. It was just off the kitchen, so it was in an L. And there was a little lemon tree in the backyard that was drying up. My father was going to cut it out. And one night, I remember having what I call a dream. I don't know what it was. I heard noises in the backyard, so my bed was next to the window, so I leaned up against on my elbow, and I pulled the window back. And the little tree was glowing. And underneath the tree, from underneath the branches, comes a man looking like this. He had a smile on his face. And he came out from under, and he was holding the branches. The branches were heavy with lemons, but the tree hadn't given any lemons. And all I saw was, and he backed off and disappeared. I never knew what to make of that dream. A couple of weeks later, when my father was getting ready to cut the tree down, it was sprouting green leaves, and it gave lemons. The incredible patron of ecology, of nature, saved that little lemon tree. And he saved me as well. I joined the OFMs. I had gone to talk to the TORs, but I didn't like, there's something about them I didn't like. And then I went to the OFMs. And I got stuck in Olean, New York in the winter, doing my postulancy with snow above my waist. But it was interesting. I learned the precepts of what poverty, chastity, and obedience were, even though the professed friars didn't always carry it out that way, but most of them did up there. And when I got to Washington, my experience was so different because I had idolized what I thought the Franciscans should be and what I saw in reality, and I left and came down to the Archdiocese of Miami. But that didn't work out. I felt weird. I felt like I was living in a fishbowl at the seminary. So I left a few weeks before my diaconate, and then I found Casina, and then St. Francis found me again, and I joined the Franciscans with Casina, and then I came and joined the order here. And we're back with Casina, oddly enough. I mentioned the story about Francis beckoning to me because I mentioned it to a friar who had served in Cuba for many years. He was with the, what province was that back then? The Basque province of Spain. And they had all the Caribbean. And Father Loredo, Miguel Loredo, may he rest in peace. I told him the story, and he said, he just pat my hand and he said, San Francisco llama al que quiere. St. Francis calls the ones he wants. And here I am.